We have some breaking news coming in for you. In the last few minutes, Iranian state television has reported that at least 35 people have been killed in a stampede at the funeral procession of the Iranian General Qaassem Soleimani. Hundreds of thousands of people have gathered in the town of Kerman as General Soleimani is laid to rest. He was killed by a US airstrike in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad, last week. Now, the fallout of General Soleimani's killing has raised tensions in the region. His assassination has caused an outpouring of public grief and anger against the US. Iran says it'll seek revenge for the killing.
Revered in life, martyred in death. Hundreds of thousands of mourners witnessed the return of General Qaassem Soleimani's body to his hometown of Kerman. After a 3-day state funeral procession across the country, this is where his journey ends. Soleimani was killed in a US drone strike in neighboring Iraq on Friday. His death has not only provoked an outpouring of grief across the region, but also anger. We repeat once again, our willpower is firm. We tell our enemies that we will retaliate. But if they take another action, we will set ablaze the places that they like and feel passionate about. The US is already bracing itself for retaliation. Paratroopers from the US 82nd Airborne Division are on their way to the Middle East. They'll make up part of the 3,000 additional troops being sent to the region. But tensions with Iran have also thrown the US military presence in Iraq into question. There was confusion after a leaked letter from the US Defense Department appeared to suggest an imminent withdrawal of American troops from Iraq. It bore the name of US Marine General William Seeley, but it wasn't signed. The Pentagon has since clarified, saying the letter was a draft and a mistake, and there was no decision whatsoever to leave Iraq. Soleimani's death reigniting tensions between this region and the United States.
And for some analysis, I'm now joined by Natasha Lindstedt. She's a Middle East expert at Essex University. Welcome. Firstly, what is your assessment of the fallout from General Soleimani's death and the spike in tensions?
Well, I think that the fallout has been pretty terrible. We're seeing that tensions between the U.S. and Iraq have increased as the Iraqi parliament had voted to expel U.S. troops. There's all kinds of concerns as what the U.S. is going to do, because now they're trying to decide, are they going to completely leave? How are they going to manage this departure? There are concerns that if they leave, then there's going to be insecurity in Iraq and the rise of the Islamic State again. And then, of course, naturally, the relationship between Iran and the U.S. just keeps getting worse and worse. We see Iran is more committed than ever to pursue its nuclear program. There is absolutely no incentive for them to not do so, because from their standpoint, what they see happening is that the U.S. cannot be trusted, that the U.S. is incredibly dangerous. They basically assassinated the second most important person in Iran. So the equivalent would possibly be if Iran had taken out the Secretary of Defense in the U.S. or something to that equivalent. And so we're going to see Iran taking bolder action. In fact, they've even said that they're not going to even use proxies anymore. Whatever they decide to do is going to be directly implicated, directly using their own military. And so they're going to take more steps to create instability in the region.
Now, the U.S., meanwhile, is sending in more troops into the region. Does this mean that there is a real danger of a military escalation?
Yeah, there is a real danger for military escalation, because I don't think that the U.S. has a clear plan about what the consequences would be of this Soleimani assassination. In fact, when they put forward the idea towards Trump, the military apparatus didn't think that Trump would actually make this decision, and they're not prepared as to what to do. I think that's why we see all of the chaos in the response, whether they decided that they're going to leave the region or not leave the region, and then they're deciding we're going to put more people here. What can only result is that this is going to lead to an escalation of recruitment of these militias. The militias are then going to go after U.S. troops and U.S. servicemen. That's going to lead to retaliation. And I think in the end, not just we're going to see a higher military death toll, but we're going to see a higher civilian death toll as well.
Natasha Lindstedt from Essex University, thank you very much for that analysis.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Germany has announced that it's withdrawing part of its contingent of soldiers from Iraq. I'm now joined by our parliamentary correspondent, Thomas Sparrow. Thomas, why has the German government decided to withdraw some of its troops from Iraq?
Rita, we had access to a letter sent by the German Ministries of Defense and Foreign Affairs to the German Parliament explaining the decision, and the key element there is security concerns that German officials have, in particular when it comes to those soldiers that are stationed in Iraq. It's important to stress, Amrita, that this is on a temporary basis. It's not on a permanent basis, and that we're only talking of a small part of Germany's troops in Iraq, that they're going to be moving to two neighboring countries in the region, to Jordan and Kuwait. But again, important to stress, Amrita, that it is something temporary. Germany is particularly concerned about the security on the one hand, as I just explained. On the other hand, there are also concerns about the political situation and how that will evolve in the next few days and weeks, in particular when it comes to the anti-IS coalition. German officials have been discussing this a lot here in Berlin, and in fact, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas had a lot to say on this. This is part of what he had to say on this regard.
The fact is, the troops who are involved in a training mission, for example, are no longer carrying it out. The coalition's entire anti-IS combat mission is also currently on hold. So the safety of our soldiers who are there is our highest priority. We're checking that on a daily basis and have so far taken every precaution to ensure the safety of our soldiers on the ground.
So the security, as we heard from the Foreign Minister of Germany, of the soldiers is most important. And as you said, Thomas, the German contingent in Iraq is small and the withdrawal is temporary. But what message does this withdrawal send at a time of such high tension in the region?
It is important to understand the bigger picture here, Amrita. If you read carefully that letter by German officials, it is clear that they have two priorities in mind. One is the stability of Iraq, something that German officials are particularly worried about. And second, the anti-IS coalition, which, as you know, is a direct threat as well, the IS, to the EU and to Germany. It's something that German officials are particularly concerned about as well, is how they can still continue to combat the Islamic State in the region if the situation continues to change in Iraq. So these two elements remain particularly important for Germany and for the EU as a whole, and that's why German officials will also be having various discussions, not only with Iraqi officials. In fact, Germany is sending a high-ranking delegation to Baghdad for consultations, but they're also having discussions with other European leaders as well. And let's not forget that Angela Merkel herself will be travelling to Russia at the weekend to have discussions with Vladimir Putin. They're also on this issue. So a lot of talk, a lot of discussions on this issue that for Germany is becoming very important indeed.
Thomas Sparrow, DW's political correspondent, thank you very much.